This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 932, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you, Frank. Hello, my name is Connor Gilpatrick, and this is my co-host, Josh Flanagan.
I gotta say, I might be mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore.
This is iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 932. And what are we doing? Every week, one of us picks the book they like the best from their stack of comics. We call that the Pick of the Week. We talk about that book. We talk about some indeterminate other number of books from the week. It changes every week. This week is an interesting number. Patron Pick is also something we discuss, as well as listener mail. There may be more of that than normal this week. It's going to be fun if your name isn't Josh. Here's your spoiler warning. Exercise some caution. This week, Josh had to pick. And one thing before you get into it, I think we've said 2 or 3 weeks in a row that, it's a weird week. A lot of okay books, a lot of fine books, but not a lot of great books, maybe 1 or 2. This week, it was pretty bad.
Crap fest.
We don't often say this. We truly don't. I don't even know the last time this happened, but you texted me. You were like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to make a pick. Can we skip it this week?
Yeah, let's just
And I was like, I feel you, man. This was not good. There's a couple of books I enjoyed.
A couple?
But that was it. The rest were there was so many times this week I kept putting the iPad down and being like, I can't keep reading this, and I would just walk away.
We have never had a problem filling out the rundown.
I know,
but you'll notice if you're looking at this, you'll see there's less books on the rundown this week, is because everything else is I don't want to just complain about people's books.
No,
so
because we try to come on and talk about what we liked,
right.
Unless it's a major release or something really notable. We try to only focus on what we enjoyed, and we were making the rundown. Josh sent me over the books he wanted because that's what the producer of the show does, and then I wrote back and I added one book, and I was like, "That's it. I did nothing else."
Let's move along. The pick of the week is Avengers number 781 or number 15 of the current continuity. We really liked the last issue. It was the sort of hastily assembled ragtag group of Avengers in the midst of Blood Hunt, and we find out that it's good old Captain Steve along with a great team. It's a great team that I'm going to tell you what it is as soon as I open these pages.
Hercules,
I know that
Kate Bishop, Quicksilver, is that Armor? What is her name?
Oh, Hazmat.
Hazmat. Armor's the other book.
Hazmat.
Hercules, Cap, Quicksilver, Kate Bishop, Hazmat.
Yeah,
that's it.
I love every one of those characters. I don't know that I love Hazmat, but I like her a lot. She's been in a bunch of books. I like her an awful lot. We there's definitely complaining about sort of the latter day replacement characters. And while having 2 characters named Hawkeye is kind of what I love, Kate Bishop. She is one of my favorite.
She's a terrific character.
Creation characters. I when she's in here, I don't think just put Clinton here. I'm fine with it. I really like her as a character. There's a bit anyway. So there's a couple of things in this. I think that when I go down to sort of the brass tacks of what's great about comics. By the way, the best comic book I read this week, bar none, was the reprint of a Frank Miller story.
Well, yes,
a Daredevil story in giant size. And I was like, well, I can't make that the pick of the week. But that was easily the best thing I read this week.
But of the new books, this was my favorite.
Yeah,
this week. It's the most fun I've had. These 2 issues have been the most fun I've had reading Avengers in 10 years?
It feels like Avengers.
This feels like the Avengers even more than the the regular, quote unquote, regular team that Jed McKay usually writes. That's full of all the big time movie characters.
That's it.
This feels more like what an Avengers team should be. A heavy hitter, a couple of heavy hitters, some younger new characters, an old legacy character in Quicksilver. A mixed up ragtag group, not all of the major characters from the movies who are all major Omega level Avengers, which isn't a thing, but I just made it up right there.
So they're fighting Baron Blood,
Baron Blood
is a Nazi vampire, and I can't remember where it happened, but at some point, here it is. Kate says, "So you two know each other?" And this is the first panel. He's like, "You surprised that I know a Nazi vampire?" And I was like, "That's a good line right away." Hit one out of the park right away. I think I know the name CF Villa. I can't tell you. It's just a name that's been around. It's done a lot of comics. This art is super fun.
It's interesting because it at times feels unfinished.
Yeah.
But I think you can call this an excuse or what have you. It feels almost like appropriate for the story, which is very fast paced and things are happening very quickly. So there's like, it feels like not all the lines are there for a reason. Because I've seen CF Villa before and it hasn't been quite like this. But I think it's really fun and dynamic, and I love the way he draws the characters. And then there's the shots under the characters, over the character. Like there's all kinds of different fun perspectives that CF Villa uses, and I think it's been. I mean, this is a really fun book. Oh man, look at that page on 18 where Cap's all in shadow.
Oh, I was talking about literally on it. Yeah,
talking about how he's like, you think you're threatening me? Like that was awesome.
Can't fight them all. You're just disappointing. I think the thing about the art is that it's loose. It's not the art's. A lot of times on Avengers book, the artists take it really seriously. If that makes sense, like everything's got to be epic and whatever, and this is just like flowing. And if you look back, I'm not saying that this looks like Kirby or Buscema, but it has more of that, like get it on the page, get the things moving, get it around. It's
tell the story. Yeah,
it's professional, but it's not the super highly polished and stylized thing that most, especially on the big books, has become your big team books. That sort of serious. I don't know. I'm trying to think of
that. Might be it, Josh. That might be the thing that we've been talking about, trying to decide what the problem is with the Avengers and why has it been a problem for a decade. And it's been so serious and grandiose. And this is really fun. And look, it's Nazi vampires. It's not, but it's also a little silly. And that's okay too. And that's what's really fun about it. I mean, I would pay an extra American dollar for this to be the team moving forward.
Just once or on every
whatever
issue?
that is to the cost of the book.
So then there's a couple of other moments. Is it in this one? Yeah, it is. So there's a quick flashback that Kate Bishop has. They're basically, can you fly the helicarrier? And they're like, did you want to be a SHIELD agent? And they flash back in one panel to her opening up. She's got like a little diorama that she did of the helicarrier science. She's a little good. She's proud of it. But I saw that as the USS flag, and I thought that she had a big, cool aircraft carrier toy like I wanted in fourth grade.
Yeah, she says she knows all about the helicarrier, its escape pods, what they can and can't do, what they have in them, and they're like, how do you know all the stuff about the helicarrier? And that flashes back to her fourth grade,
and she's just a
awesome.
fangirl.
It was awesome.
And it doesn't make you go, she wouldn't do that. You go, that works.
Yeah, totally.
So that's just like a tiny moment, and I noted it, and so it's like, before I thought this was the pick, that when I made the decision, which wasn't actually all that difficult when I sort of looked at my books, I thought, that's a moment that I'm definitely going to want to talk about. And then later, basically, someone says, like, Quicksilver says, we need a speech, and you think Captain America is going to be the one to do that, because basically there's a bunch of people imprisoned on the helicarrier by the vampires who are going to be used for. By the way, they're very open about the fact that they're just farming humans to eat in this. It's not it's not like hinted at, which it's fine by me. Either way, all the people though who have been freed, there's hundreds of them, and they're a little unruly because they're terrified and they don't know what's going on, which is actually a thing that would happen a lot more. So they say we need a speech, and Kate gives the speech, and she's like, listen, I know you're all scared. I know that because I am. I don't have superpowers. But I've got something better, and so do you. We've got the Avengers. It was a great speech.
It was good.
That instead of giving it to Captain America, which is
it's the easy way.
Yeah, it's the easy way.
And we all would have loved it.
Yes, absolutely. But by having her do it, I buy her on this team. I buy her with I really like that character. And
this is so much more fun than the other team.
Yeah, same writer.
Because it's the characters, right? I mean, it is the same writer. And it is about the right alchemic mix of characters. And there's nothing wrong with the other characters. I like all of those other characters.
It's too many heavy hitters on those other teams.
But they're all the A team.
And there's no conflict or misunderstanding between them anymore. Right. They all went through Civil War together. Right. So Carol and Tony don't fight anymore. Steve, like, none of them dislike each other. There was a little, Jason Aaron put a little of that in because he put some other folk in there
towards the end.
Yeah, but for the most part, when you've got all those A-list characters, there's not a lot of conflict with them in the MCU anymore. Not that there's conflict with these characters, but at least they have to get to know each other.
I don't think I've seen this in a long time, but there's a point here where Hercules and Cap talk through the ID card.
Yep, that was another one.
Which I hadn't seen in a while.
For a second, I thought he had a sticker on him. And the sticker said A, and I was like, does he have a Captain America sticker? And I was like, oh, no, it's the Avengers Identicard, which also serves as a communicator. I hadn't thought of that in a long time.
As a kid, they must have been in the comics. They had a cutout Avengers ID card, which I definitely cut out and glued to cardboard and put my name on it. And, like to make myself, I definitely did that. I 100% remember it. I didn't have any comic book friends, so I don't know that I did it, but I definitely had the thought. I remember it. You don't have to, as soon as I saw, I was like, oh, it's the Identicard. There was no looking up. There was wait, what was that called again? I can't remember anything. Right.
But Identicard. I remember that, and then all the words to Suzanne Vega's Luca for some reason.
I'm still really enjoying Blood Hunt. I know you're not in it as much as I am. I'm not reading every issue. I dropped a couple this week because there was just a ton of them, and some of them I haven't been enjoying, but overall, I'm enjoying it. And so what I found really interesting this week was we had Fantastic Four 714 or 21, which was a tie-in. And so I found it interesting just on the basis of now Ryan North's little bubble book has to play with the rest of the universe. And how was that going to go? I found that most interesting going into it. And I thought it worked for the most part because he found an interesting way to do it, which was to pair Reed and Alicia together in an adventure, which I've never seen before. Even if I had a hard time believing that Reed doesn't believe in vampires.
So
I was like, come on, there's a million vampires in the Marvel Universe. He clearly knows they exist.
Yes. There are a lot of things that I liked about this issue, and there were some cool ideas and moments.
The 3D art was really cool.
Yeah. This was the worst Ryan North Fantastic Four issue by far. It was unevenly structured. It was like they had the weird, too much time at the museum explaining art to Reed.
Right.
Which I kind of didn't buy.
Well, it's going to have to come back around later.
Reed looks too young.
This is a fill-in artist, right? Even Fiorelli.
Yeah, it was
Fiorelli
not
hasn't been doing it. Ivan. Why can't I talk?
Every other one has been a perfect little bundle of joy, and this was this weird disjointed thing. And if you look, it's just talking for most of it. Then we get to the stuff with the vampires, and I found myself annoyed that I was like, leave this guy out of it. They're already in Arizona. And I just and he did it and he was game or whatever, but it really felt flat. It felt like it was missing there's great ideas and, he doesn't half-ass it in any way, but it just didn't have the same magic that the others had. And I was it's not like in any other world that it's not a bad comic book. It's a good tie-in or whatever, but this is not, it wasn't right. And I was really not happy about it.
Ivan Fiorelli has done a good number of the issues in this series. He's done 5, 6, 8, 9, 14, 15.
So he does the one between
21, 22. He's like the alternate artist.
Yeah. And I don't think I'm not going to say that the art was bad, but it was just at one point I was like, they didn't make Reed look old enough.
It's not as good, although it fits in the style of the book. And we talked about this last week. I don't think it's bad art. I was not able to not enjoy it, but it's not as good as the other artist who does the art.
I think the strongest bits of this, the bits at the beginning where there were little lessons on how the blind see art, and it's fine. It was just a little long in the tooth and long-winded and not necessarily organic. Went on for too long because it had nothing to do with the plot.
Right.
It kind of did, but the stuff with his how far can you stretch?
Well, that was the other point. Was in addition to I don't buy that he doesn't believe in vampires because there's a lot of vampires.
He's impervious now.
The impervious thing I buy because his skin isn't normal anymore, but he stretches too far. Like he stretches for a long
They
time.
stretch the concept of the stretching.
Remember when we reviewed the Fantastic Four? No, the Namor book, and the Fantastic Four were in it, and they like he stretched to the limit there, and it was only like 50 feet. Mm-hmm. Here he's going like through whole neighborhoods.
Yes, although I liked the tube.
Yeah, that was funny.
I liked that he made the tube. I think it was like interesting ideas, but if I was to like really match it up with like what makes sense in Marvel, I was like, all right, that's a little like when they start giving Superman the solar powers or whatever. Right. Like,
also, they walked from MoMA to Madison Square Garden through vampires. That's a long way.
20-something blocks and across town, yeah?
Yeah, that's a long way.
Yeah.
MoMA's up on the Upper East Side by the park. Madison Square Garden's on 34th and 7th. Like, that's a long way to go.
What is the worst example you can think of bad New York geography in feature films?
Oh, boy.
Because I have mine.
The one I think of, because I've seen it a lot, is One Fine Day with George Clooney and Michelle. I was going to say Michelle Williams. That's not who it is. Michelle Pfeiffer. Mm-hmm. They are going back and forth, up and down in the course of one day. You can pick 2 of those activities. That's all you can do. You can't do 12.
There is a car chase in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh, yeah.
Which starts in Central Park about the 60s.
Yeah.
75% of the car chase takes them to 52nd Street.
59th.
Yeah.
End of the park.
So they're yeah. And then they make it down to like Wall Street in like 3 minutes.
Right, because they're supposedly chasing an ambulance. Yeah, there's just no way. There's no way.
It's a bad one. Yeah. I digress. In a normal world, fine. This issue of Fantastic Four is okay. It was missing the spark. It was derailed.
It totally feels like he's like, all right, I guess I got to do this. And it's another issue next. Although look at that cover for the next issue. Jesus, that's a good cover.
I'm going to it.
Alex Ross.
I didn't even need to look at the book to talk about it because
the vampire's biting him in the face. Mm-hmm. It's a good cover.
I think that when I said like they made him stretch too much, I think it's a lot like they expanded all of that. That is a great cover. Holy shit. Mm-hmm. Alex Ross killing it. I think they did with all their powers. The Human Torch got too powerful. When they need to, Sue Storm, like everyone's
Sue's overpowered. They're all overpowered.
They flirt with her.
Thing.
Yeah, they flirt with her being like, maybe she's the most powerful character. They keep doing that. And no, I love the Thing because the Thing always seems kind of limited. Like he's not the strongest.
He never gets his due.
Yeah, he's got to get by.
Do we have to talk about Gods number 8?
So listen, we had to talk about something, and I think that this is fair. This was sort of a big mini-series event within the mini-series.
Yeah.
And it started off pretty promising and interesting.
We enjoyed the first couple issues. Yeah.
I've been reading it all the way through.
Yeah.
So the last, I think it was the last issue, is the one they go into hell or somewhere, and there's a tribunal, and because they're trying to, I don't know what. I lost the thread to a certain extent. Not like I normally do with Hickman books. I thought it held on fairly well. But I didn't, that felt like a diversion. That felt like a little side quest before we get the whole story finished. And then we came to this one and I was like, wait, that's the end? And I really thought, normally he goes on way too long and loses me, but it just felt like it got cut off.
It was always meant to be 8 from the original announcement. They were
sure. I just mean from a structure standpoint, like
they were hoping it'd be popular enough to make it an ongoing, but it obviously didn't go that way. I did not like this issue, and I felt sad not liking it because I did really enjoy it overall, I think. But I just had no memory of the last issue. Here, the first page is 100 years later, and I was like, 100 years later from what? Because I couldn't remember what had happened. And that's the problem with new characters is like, I have an institutional memory of the Avengers, so it sort of sticks in my brain. Whereas these are all new people, except for Doctor Strange. And I don't remember
but the main guy looks like Doctor Strange.
Right. I didn't necessarily dislike moments in this book, where this main guy, whose name I don't even remember, is bouncing around time and he sort of jumps in moments of his life that are important. I liked those little bits in those moments, but what it adds up to at the end, I don't know. I had no emotional reaction to.
I think that I like him and his wife, and I like that setup of the story. And I think everything else got so far away from that we lost that romance in the middle.
Right.
And
I now remember them going back to hell. See, it's just too much in there in my brain.
Well, so the thing is, though, is that I do like his character, but I don't feel like I got to know him well enough to appreciate what they were doing. I have no doubt that Jonathan Hickman knows exactly what he thinks that they are, and his story would work if you had that understanding of the character. But I don't think that we got it, either him or his wife, star-crossed lovers. I mean, that's sort of what's going on, and as such, the sort of payoff of the will they, won't they get together, and I don't think they answered it, really.
No, they don't. They leave it up to you to decide.
So you didn't even get that.
I think it might read better all in one go. I don't feel at all motivated to do so.
All right, so here is my 2-word summation of the ending of a promising miniseries, Gods. Wet fart.
Okay, all right.
It really was. It was like, okay, you're doing all this stuff, you're making up what happened to Doctor Strange? Was he? I don't know. Felt like, and then there was a really cool story about Dimitri, and then he went to go find his parents, and that just kind of that's gone too. I don't know.
I wish it had gone longer, only because
I think it needed to.
These characters were interesting enough that you could have explored all of these questions you're asking, but it didn't, and so you're left with a bunch of half stories and a bunch of
that's what it felt like,
not satisfying conclusions because you don't really know these characters well enough to be satisfied about.
There's the girl who was sort of like recruited, and she was the new powerful person. And then there was that like demon character, and I just didn't all come together at the end to sort of work as a single thing. It was like they wrapped everything up before, and we didn't realize they wrapped it up. And then this is like an epilogue.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not, I didn't want to put this stuff on here to be like, ugh, why is this so bad? But
it was the most interesting, annoying book this week.
Yeah. It's like, well, what is it that fit? And it's interesting is we did not talk about this ahead of time, and I did not know what your take was going to be. No. But mine was, that's really interesting. That why didn't it work? And I think that I think it was too many cooks in the kitchen, ideas wise, and then
I just don't know what the why of this series.
I agree with you.
What was Jonathan Hickman trying to add to the Marvel universe that didn't already exist, or that he felt was missing? And I don't think anything in this book answers that question.
So the powers that be, and
there's already a million of these, celestial magic organizations.
I don't really
what does this one bring to the table that
do you understand what those are?
No, I don't.
Like what the two are, like if there's one of them's good or bad, one's science.
I just
magic,
tried to focus on the relationships between the characters because that I could glean from the story. Where like the powers that be, the whatever the other one was, I just couldn't keep. I don't.
I'm going to tell you what this is not unlike. This was not unlike a Sandman arc. Like stay with me, is that there's usually different groups with interests and they have relationships with each other and things are coming along here and there but I was never lost on a Sandman arc. Right. He managed to juggle all of those things. And this is too many ideas by half and not enough what is the story. And if the story is there and I can't find it, and I'm like, we say this like I'm a pretty good reader. Like I understand what it is they're trying to do. Like here's the thing, it was lost.
This is
what happens. I'd have never seen him lose it in 8 issues.
Yeah.
Lawful #1. I was going to say it's Dark Horse. I think I'm almost positive.
I believe that's true.
I picked up a book. It's Boom. It's Boom. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Greg Pak, a writer who I always like. And always make sure to pick out whatever he does. It's not like, oh my God, he's my favorite, but there's always something interesting going on. And I felt that this was the case here. It is a story about, some other future alternate world called New Sanctum. And in it, some of it looks a little like our world. But in this world, if you do a bad thing, you start growing animal monster parts. And if you do too many bad things, you're flung into the river or into the sea or whatever, and you become a monster. And then so they're plagued by monsters in several ways. And there's an incident at the beginning where the kid's friend convinces him to throw a rock in the water. and it causes a monster to come up. The kid's father shows up, slays the monster, and points out, well, you broke the rules. And you see that he has 3 like monster scales on his chest. And so we cut to 13 years later, and he is the best boy. He breaks no rules. His mom is sick. He gets her hospital. He turns out he is still friends with the girl from back then. She's got a tiger tail and some horns, and one of her hands is a paw. So she's a little bit dirty. And he's constantly trying to do the right thing because he didn't want to disappoint his family or whatever. And he finally makes it to the top of what he's going for, which is kind of like a clerk who they punish and capture people who've done too much bad.
So was this a satisfying or interesting addition to the unending number of fantasy books being published right now?
I thought it was well done and interesting.
That's why I didn't read it. I was going to read it, like you said, because
it was the Greg Pak.
But then I saw the premise. I was like, I don't want to read another fantasy book. If Josh is this great, I'll read it. As
a fantasy thing, I thought it was pretty good because the fantasy element is rooted in a world where it just is what it is there. It's not people being amazed by the fantasy. It's just a fact of their life, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way to give morality a signifier. It's just like this is really just about being a good person and breaking rules in the system. I mean, that's what it is. It's a metaphor for that thing. And I thought I heard a lot of number ones this week, and Crap Fest. And this one was pretty good. I was glad I read this one. I will keep reading it.
Ultimate X-Men number 4 by Peach Momoko. We talked about, was it last week?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Did we talk about
last week? Last issue?
On an email?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't understand this book.
No.
Do you read it still? You stopped.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. I'm reading all of them. All the Ultimate books. I've just been reading this one to see what happens when we get to the actual X-Men or some facsimile of.
I'm fascinated by it.
And I don't know that we're ever going to get there. I don't know what's going on.
That's what it is. I really want to know how they're going to tie it into other things. So far, it's very far removed from those things. How does this book fit into the world that we read in the Ultimates last week? I don't know.
How does that work?
But the fact that it exists kind of tickles me because, I want to see if they're going to pull it off. And here was the thing: this was the issue that I was like, I don't know that I can keep doing this, and not because it isn't beautiful, because it's so beautiful. But I will say, I got to the last page, and I was like, I am interested in what just happened at that last page. They're basically somebody takes a picture, and it's like, oh shit, because everybody's trying to keep their little powers secret, as far as I can. I can barely hold on. I don't know who's who.
I don't know who's who. I don't know. There's 2 to 3 girls, and they all are secret mutants in Japan. Yeah. One of them is Armor. One of them is sort of like Storm. I don't
There's
know.
another one.
There's a third one.
I barely care. I think it's gorgeous, but I can't really tell what the thread is.
Right.
And I was like, and then I got to the end. It's not like an amazing cliffhanger, but I was like, I don't know why. That's interesting. I want to know what happens next. But I really am. The experiment of having a woman in Japan who doesn't speak English, as far as I know, this book's getting translated, it says, and having her do this story in a style that is completely different than everything. And again, it's beautiful. I can't complain about having to look at the art and go through it. The sort of watercolor wash that happens and everything, but it is so different than the books that it's tied to. I'm just like, I just want to see how they try to stick this landing. I'm not annoyed by it.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 for the first arc. There's always up in the air whether it's.
I don't know. This is 4, and it seems like a ways to go.
All right. Well, there you go. So that was this week's comics. But the patrons, our loyal patrons.
We could have done the bell, but it just would have been fart noises.
Vote to add a book to the rundown. And this week they voted for Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, number 1. Elseworlds is back!
Is that what
Andy Diggle.
Is this the first?
This is the first Elseworlds book since Dan DiDio killed it however many, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Andy Diggle, Leandro Fernandez, Dave Stewart, Simon Boland. Quite a team.
It's a heck of a team.
Yeah. And so they're re-embracing the Elseworlds tag, even though they've been doing Elseworlds books the entire time. This is the first one. I love Elseworlds. It's one of my favorite concepts. It's one of my favorite imprints that they've ever had. Doesn't mean they're all great, but I love the idea of it. I love reading them for the most part. This is the third Gotham by Gaslight miniseries. The first one Mike Mignola drew. The second one, it was someone not Mike Mignola.
I don't remember that.
Jose Luis Garcia Lopez? No, that's not right.
Whoa.
Somebody like that.
The first one came out while I was reading comics in my first sort of like 11-12 era. And it was a Prestige square-bound book, and I didn't know who Mike Mignola was. And I don't know that I appreciated him. But even then I was like, that sounds cool. And like I remember like being like, I better bag this one up. And putting it in the backboard and doing the whole thing. And
the first one is written by Brian Augustine, drawn by Mike Mignola, inked by P. Craig Russell, and edited by Mark Waid.
Jesus.
It was Eduardo Barreto. He shows up every now and then. Batman Mastered the Future was the sequel by Augustine and Eduardo Barreto. It was very much like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. I reread both of those a couple of years ago because they put out an animated adaptation of the first two. So to reread them, I reread them. So the
first one's a Jack the Ripper story, right?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't remember it at all, but
something like that. One of them is.
Remember.
It's Batman set in 19th century, late 1800s. Yes, Jack the Ripper Comes to Gotham was the first one.
Yeah, is it in England?
No, it's in Gotham. He comes to Gotham.
There's Gotham in England, though?
No. Jack the Ripper escapes England. The heat's on him and comes to Gotham. So, it's late 1800s. It's that period of time, the Gotham City. And this one really it's called the Kryptonian Age. And it starts with, Clark landing in 1860 in the Kansas territory, which is the tribe that the name Kansas came from. And we only see that bit of him. And then we cut to a lot of Selina Kyle, in Gotham City and a little bit of Batman. I thought this was terrific.
I liked it an awful lot. If Pick of the Week was only to be awarded because of art, this would have been my hands down winner. Which is my way of saying I was I didn't not like the story. I just it really didn't grab me one way or another, but it was a feast to look at. And I know a few pages in, not many. So there's a bit where the asteroid hits. It says boom. And I went, oh, Dave Stewart's color in this. I didn't notice at the beginning, but I was like, that's gorgeous. Let me go back and check. Yeah, okay, they got Dave Stewart. Leandro Fernandez is a favorite of mine, has been for a really long time. He is often known for having very sort of expressive characters. Some people found them quite unlikable with really long noses. When I first, met him, it was on Queen and Country, and he made everybody look very exaggerated. And it was a little bit to get used to, but ultimately it was great art. And every time he shows up, he's just great artist. And there's this wonderful cartooning that is going on in here. There's a character, basically they're at a big fancy society party, and Selina shows up, and she runs a bawdy house in this. And a woman is offended and aghast, and she tells her husband, you have to stop her from being in here. And his face clearly says, I know her. And he stammers and hammers and haw, and he has a great walrus mustache. It's just that one page of faces. It's
a visual feast, this issue. There's great action. The shot where Batman lands and throws knives, and the knives are coming at us, and he's mostly in shadow the whole time. The
architecture.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous book.
There's a page here where, actually it's 2 pages, where it's literally it's a whole page of Selina changing, and she's dealing with all the Gilded Age clothing, that's way too many layers, and the
it's not sexy, it's comical.
No, yeah, exactly. It sort of goes through the whole thing. God, it's gorgeous. There's a shot on the docks that go through the riggings of all the ships. Oh my God, it is magnificent. He's such a good artist and is completely underrated in value. I hope that he just doesn't choose to do a lot because he doesn't have to. But man, the inks, he and this was back in the Queen and Country day. He had a great ability, not unlike a Chris Samney, who had also done Queen and Country, to sort of really use black and silhouette to sort of create the mood with much less lines. So you pair that with A, Gotham by Gaslight, and B, Dave Stewart, and it's unbeatable.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I didn't really like about it was I thought Holly, Selina's erstwhile sidekick, was a little over the top. And, she's supposed to be taking Selina's place at the dinner while Selina robs the place, but she doesn't look anything like her. They got different colored hair. Like, why would anybody buy this? And she almost comes across as Ben Affleck doing, pretending to be Good Will Hunting, which was funny in the movie, but didn't, that's because they didn't know what he looked like. I just didn't buy that happening. But the rest of it, I thought was...
And this is why I thought it was in England, because she clearly they're writing a Cockney accent.
Right. Well, she could be just, new to the country.
Free grub though, ain't it? Flipping stomach thinks me throat's been cut. I mean, and it's Andy Diggles. He's British. He knows he did it on purpose.
I just think these kind of things, the Elseworlds books are fun because you're not constrained by anything, right? You can do whatever you want in them. And that's the whole point, right? You put these familiar characters in unfamiliar settings, and you get to watch it be fun. You get to watch these characters in the 1860s and all that comes with it. And it's very early. Again, we haven't even seen Superman yet. We don't even know if we will. It's just called the Kryptonian Age because. And
Superman his presence is represented by this green glow that only appears in the book, when he's discussed. And there is, when the asteroid hits, they look inside the ship, and then the camera backs up and we see the green under a hill. As you get further away, we see Native Americans,
the Kansas.
Yeah, and they're looking at the glow from over there, and they're looking a look of concern, beautifully lit.
So the present of the book is 1893. So he lands in 1860. So he's 30. He'll be 33 years old in this story, which is the sort of the canonical modern age of Superman. That's how old they always said he was in the books.
God,
I think this is really fun. I'm looking forward to more. I'm looking forward to. Am I going to enjoy all these Elseworlds? No. Am I really looking forward to the Greg Smallwood one? Yes, totally. But. I'm just happy these are back. I'm happy we get to talk about them because there are so many things that I enjoyed as a younger person that didn't happen really during the show's time. Like it's one of the reasons why I'm having so much fun doing all the G.I. Joe books is because we didn't really read those books during the time we did iFanboy. Very early on, the thing went to Devil's Due and blah, blah, blah. But same thing with Elseworlds. They didn't really put them out. And then the heyday was sort of, the 90s. And, they went away, 15 years ago, whatever it was, 10 years ago. And so I'm happy to be able to talk about these stories on the show because we haven't been able to do them ever. Anyway, let's do the ratings on it.
Ratings.
I'm going to do 4 stars out of 5, and I'm sticking with it.
3.85.
Sticking with it?
Oh, yeah. I would read this without reading it if I needed to. I would just look at it. I think just going through it now, I'm more impressed than I was the first time. This is gorgeous. And again, I don't think the story was bad. It just didn't quite, it didn't blow me away or anything yet. It'd be nice. And Andy Diggle's good though. It's not poorly done in any way.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron gets a vote out of Bug to the Rundown. But if you give it the $5 or higher level, you get a superpower live on the show. It's your patron power. And this week, Josh gives it out.
So as it is, Sheldon Antle
can
work. Look and point and give anybody squeaky clown feet.
He can point at you and you get.
Yeah.
Do your shoes become big red shoes?
Yeah. I mean, really, that's what your feet are probably fine, but you end up with huge comical squeaky clown feet. Everything about them is the sort of version of what a big squeaky clown foot is. Bright colors, stars. Big squeaks over and so he can, at will. It's not like you get near him, you get squeaky clown feet. But as you can see, like imagine the origin story is he's walking, he's new in town, and the bullies come up to him with their denim vests with the sleeves cut off,
right?
And he freaks out and he starts running. Yeah, red headband, white t-shirt. And he starts running away, and he's scrunching his face down. He's like, oh, "Please, just go away!" And then the next panel is like, all you see is the sound effect, honk, 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 honk. And then the next panels are all falling all over each other. Like what happened? And he's freaked out. He doesn't know.
So that's his origin story.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Squeaky clown feet.
Thanks,
That was,
Sheldon.
by the way, I didn't write that power down. I just wrote the words. That was a prompt. I had to go from there.
That's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sheldon. Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's how you can get yourself a power live on the show. And Sheldon did that by being a patron at patreon.com/iFanboy. It's our most direct way of helping support what we do here at iFanboy. We bring you at least 6 shows a month. Last month it was 8. We do our best to entertain you in your comic book reading life, and we thank everyone who does that because we could not do the show without the support. That's the age of media we're in, listener-supported media when you're independent and not part of a media conglomerate or media group. So by supporting the show, you get great rewards. You get to be part of a great community. There's one on Discord and Facebook. You get the monthly patron hangout. You can get tier-exclusive merchandise. At the $5 or higher level, you get this patron power like we just talked about. There's a Discord server at, I think it's 5 or 10, I can't remember. You get ad-free show fee at $10. And if you sign up for a year, you get 10% off. So there's really no reason why not to support. You can support for just a couple bucks. It doesn't have to be 5, doesn't have to be 10, doesn't have to be 20. But we thank everyone who does, and we appreciate that. iFanboy.threadless.com is our merch store where you can get 13 designs and various items of merchandise. iFanboy.com/support is our PayPal tip jar. You know, anyone who wins the lottery, we expect, that you're gonna throw us a bone here. That's the deal we've made over these many years. It's an implied contract by listening to the show.
It is legally binding.
There's a tithe that is implied.
Yeah. It isn't legally binding, but it is by the law, like moral, it's
a moral law.
Doing what is right.
Right.
I mean, will you be consigned to hell? Maybe. Can't say you won't be. I'm just saying, if you break the contract, it's very unlikely that you will break the contract because most people don't suddenly come into billions of dollars. But
it's the $5 level that gets you the Discord. I had to look that up. It was driving me crazy. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's written correctly. My brain decided it was wrong.
It's okay.
It's hot. And then and also iFanboy.com/Amazon. That's where you can shop. There's a general link there. If you're planning on doing any Amazon shopping, that really helps us out. Doesn't hurt you at all. And you can find our Booksplode books link there. And finally, bookshop.org is our partner. We put those links on our Booksplode shows, and those orders you make through bookshop.org are fulfilled by local bookstores. We thank you all for supporting iFanboy in any way you can. Even if it's just by listening, we also appreciate that as well. Times are tough, and we understand. We got a lot of emails in this script. Let's see how many we get through.
Let's go for it.
Is this Houston, this first one?
Yeah, but you have to say it like Chris Stamp in Superman 2.
Aaron from Houston, Texas. I love the summary page at the beginning of a new book, but I feel like they just aren't doing enough. I picked up Midnight Suns #1 this week and realized that I have no idea who Victoria Montesi is. Marvel gave me the classic star, editor's note. For more info, check out... Yes, asterisk, that's the word. For more info, check out Ghost Rider Final Vengeance, which I love. But could that be combined with a QR code that gives me a 30-second video to catch me up? Comic shops don't always have a backlog of every series that the writer are pulling me from. How is a reader supposed to keep current if I can't find the obscure miniseries? A simple QR code could also help readers understand who the shocking reveal character is at the end of the issue. I can't count how many times I've felt lost when an old character shows up that hasn't been around for 20 plus years. I've been thinking about this since Final Crisis and Batman Zur-En-Arrh showed up. No.
No, you're saying no.
They definitely can't do that. They don't have the amount of work it would take to make a 30-second video for every editor's note. It would not be worth the return. These are very tight ships that are being run, and they don't have enough money and effort for proper marketing, let alone creating a whole video unit for recap videos. They just don't have it. It's just not. There's just no way they could justify that financially.
But here's what I'm going to say though: is that back when that asterisk that was your clue, and it was much harder to find a miniseries or find a back issue or that information back then.
You could find all these comics on their digital service.
Or
all these books are available on Marvel Unlimited.
If you want to know what's going on, you Wikipedia, you Google, you can find out what it is really easily. In fact, much easier than me taking out my damn phone trying to get the thing to come up. I mean, like it's not a. If
also,
I
don't
was,
know where you'd put it on the page, it would block
if
the
I
art.
worked in marketing and you came up with a thing like that, I'd be like, all right, we're thinking forward. We're doing things different. I don't think it works practically. I don't mind the effort, but I also think like comics have to be a little bit of work. I think.
Yeah.
Because there's enough going on and there's a legacy and there's things that happen before it. And it's either your job to, as a mainstream superhero comic book reader, it's your job to jump in the sled, try to get caught up. If not, figure out what it is. Like that. If that's still fun for me. And I know that we complain, like, I don't remember what happened, but
well, you always complain about the last page character, but
yeah,
in a perfect world in which no technical restrictions applied, there were no restrictions on in-app purchases or anything like that. What I think the best thing to do would be, like, if you're reading digitally, and I realize not everyone is, and I realize Aaron's not, but if you're reading digitally, is to click on the editor's note and it pops up a window with that book for purchase and it says purchase now. That would be something that I think they would do. Could it be done? Because it leads to revenue. A 30-second ad bio for every character and everything. That's so much work. Someone's got to research, write. They got to put the graphics together. They got to edit it. Like, it's so much work.
Spend some time diving into Marvelpedia and be like, ooh, that's an awful lot of stuff.
I think if you could add hyperlinks that worked in digital comics, even if it wasn't to a store, if it was to a Marvelpedia or whatever, Marvel has its own database entry, then that would be something that's interesting. Now, in a physical book, you're out of luck. You gotta mine those back issues, and they're all available digitally. I know probably don't want to read them, but there's just no way. There's never going to be a QR code that opens up a little bio that tells you what's going on. It's just never going to happen.
No. All right. So Bob from, now it says looks like Dracula, Georgia, but he says it doesn't rhyme with Dracula. It's Dacula. What he doesn't have here, or it didn't get transferred, is where the accent is.
This one needs a QR code.
Dacula.
Dracula's way more fun.
So we're gonna say he's Bob from Dracula, Georgia.
Bob from Dracula, Georgia. Way more fun.
He shouldn't have said it. Don't go to Dr. Acula. It's Mitch Hedberg. With the release of Miracle Man Silver Age in 2023, there was a wait of 8 years for this story.
Hey.
That is so fitting for that story.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I gotta say, totally works. Is there a delayed comic that you remember waiting anxiously to come out, i.e., Saga, Lazarus, Civil War, etc.?
I don't think any of those should count. I mean, maybe.
Go on.
That's just regular delay. Civil War wasn't delayed 8 years. It just was delayed, a couple weeks or whatever.
Saga you can count.
Saga, but they went on a break.
Yeah, but it went on longer than it was supposed to.
Sure, and Lazarus, it was
years.
I'm trying to. I mean, the only one I really think is that famous, Ultimate X-Men Hulk one that was.
Oh right, the Damon Lindelof.
That was like 10 years between before the final issue came out or whatever it was.
I imagine that I would have not gotten it, like, out of spite.
I mean, I know some things about this behind the scenes because I'm friends with one of his ex-employees, and I asked her about it once, and it's not as cut and dried his fault as it should seem, at least from his perspective, but it clearly should just not have happened the way it did because it was stupid. It became a joke. But I'm trying to think of like famous. Miracle Man's the most famous delayed story, obviously.
The one that I was thinking of was Rising Stars. Rising Stars was the first J. Michael Straczynski story I ever read. He got either 10 or 20 issues in, and then they kept getting further and further and further apart. Right. And I don't think it finished, or maybe it did, but with like a wet fart, much later. I think Lazarus like I'm thinking of books that like just faded away. Southern Bastards, which like if the next one came out, I would buy it. I'd just be glad that it was there. But it's annoying that a lot of not a lot, but several series from that era just disappeared.
I'm going to say,
they just didn't finish.
Planetary was a huge delay for the last issue. I think
it
was like 3 years.
Fell.
Warren
Ellis was famous about this.
That just stopped. Captain America White. That was a 7-year delay.
Fell 6 came out, and it was like they would update you. 7's coming, like a year in or whatever. And eventually, they just said, we're not going to do it.
I'm going to mention the winner, and the winner is mostly for personal, our iFanboy reasons. Image United, which Image United number 4 was solicited for April 2010 and has never come out. So that was 14 years ago. And why it's our number 1 winner is because when we were at Comic-Con when they announced it, and we made fun of it to somebody at Image because we were like, really? You think all these guys are going to get this book out on time? They did not like that joke. And yet, guess what? We were right. So that's the winner.
I forgot about that.
Cory from Cleveland, Ohio. I was recently rereading.
Wait. Yes. The guy who he did like one issue and it was the biggest thing in the world. We met him.
Yeah.
Nate.
Non-player,
NPC. No, non-character. No,
non-player.
Non-player.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it was like
non-player number 1. Yeah, it
was like
came
a huge
out in 2011. Deal. And it was a huge. And Nate Simpson, a new popular Image book.
I got it right.
And then it got optioned, and number 2 never came out because most of those books
he went through some shit
options.
Yeah. I think like it wasn't like he was lazy. There was another one like that. I made it pick of the week. You're gonna have to help me with the title.
Pretty Baby Machine.
Pretty Baby Machine.
Cory from Cleveland, Ohio. I was recently rereading some old Marvel comics and came across some issue of the classic 100-page spectaculars. So, question to you is: if you could pick any book and creative team to do a 100-page spectacular now, who would it be? It can be either Marvel or DC. Mine would be a Young Avengers by Alan Heinberg and Jim Chung for Marvel, and Jeff Johns and Scott Collins on The Flash for DC. I have such fond memories of those books back in the day. I would love to live in those worlds one more time. I mean, did the same creative team do the 100-page spectaculars back then?
I was going to ask you.
There were like multiple stories by different creative teams.
I was going to ask you if that was the thing because I don't know. I get what he's saying. In this version of things, a 100-page spectacular is a specific type of comic with a name,
right?
And it seems to bring together a beloved team on a beloved property.
Well, DC had a book called DC 100-page Super Spectacular.
Okay,
and it ran 19 issues from 1971 to 1973. So this is the 70s, and these were all reprints. These are just reprinting issues. So these are all, at least the DC version was all reprints of stuff that already came out. There's no way anyone could do a 100-page, but I mean, it would take them 2 years.
It would take them 5 months minimum.
So DC was just a way to repackage old stories for, new readers, which is smart. I don't remember what the Marvel's ones were. But we can magically snap our fingers and we can have a creative team do a 100-page book, which is basically just an OGN. Who's someone that hasn't done work in a while that I'd love to see?
I mean, here's the first thing I thought of, and I don't know that this would be great as what he's talking about because it doesn't seem 100 pages spectacular to me. But what I did think was Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka, and Michael Lark.
Oh, doing Gotham Central?
I guess whatever they wanted to.
You got to pick the property.
Okay,
part of the question.
Yeah, then yeah, Gotham Central.
I would love. This just popped in my head. I don't know if it's right or not. I would love to see Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley do a 100-page spectacular of Batman and Robin again, of Dick and Damian. Yes, I know, but that was back when we liked him, when we didn't realize the ruin he would bring. That'd be fun. Just to see 100 pages of Frank Whiteley again. It would take him 85 years to do 100 pages, but that would.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I got two. I'm going for 2. This is easy. Frank Miller and Dave Mazzucchelli doing Batman or Daredevil. I don't care. Honestly, I don't care. They can do whatever they want.
We're really going for it with these.
But they're both still alive. They could both do it.
I know.
And then is Barry Kitson still alive?
Yeah.
You know what? No, I'm going to switch Barry Kitson. Kurt Busiek and Stuart Immonen on Avengers. By the way, I've just named two artists who just fucking walked away.
Well,
they're still.
Stuart Immonen got all that money from the Netflix deal.
I don't care. He just said, I'm not going to make comics anymore. And that is his right.
Maybe
and
his back hurts.
Okay with it.
Or his
Whatever.
wrist.
He is out there with a pencil, just the fucking master of storytelling. He can do any style, and he's not. And it's his choice.
Okay.
I'm not mad.
I have one. This is my last one. Mm-hmm. Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, Justice Society. That's the one. That's my ask. That's what I want for Christmas.
That's magnificent. It's magnificent.
You know, was it 2 episodes ago I said the days of us doing 4 emails on the show is gone and never coming back? Here we go. Our
there
4th email.
We're going for it.
We didn't know that there would be no books this week. Ken from the Great White North of Canada. Did you ever send away for any of those novelty toys advertised in comic books during the 1980s? And if so, what did you buy and how was it? I don't think I did. I was a kid. I was broke.
I've mentioned this to my children because I'm old. This is one of those, but like I fucking loved mail order. I loved mail order because
you still do.
Yeah, but it's not the same, and I think I'm trying to get it back. So if you are, I don't know how old you have to be to know this. So in the back of comic books were ads for all sorts of crap, and anytime when you were a kid and you wanted something, you had to find a check or money order. So that's problem number. Well, problem number 1 is getting money. Problem 2 is finding a check or money order. You could have your parent write you a check. I feel like I didn't go. I was like, I guess I'll go get a money order. Like
the fact that you know all this means you definitely did, and I definitely didn't.
Yeah, no. And so you would you'd tear out the form and you'd write on it by hand. And if anybody's seen my handwriting, it's a wonder anything ever came back to me. Even then, it was better then. And then you waited. You sent it to Youngstown, Ohio. That's where all things went. And then, you know what I'm talking about? There was a Michigan one too. And then you waited.
I found one. Do you remember that dude who looked like a superhero? Who had like a lightning bolt on his.
I can see it. Yeah.
Olympic. This was This was Connecticut.
I can connect to that. Yeah. Hang on. You sent it there, and then 6 to 8 weeks later, something would maybe come.
Sea monkeys.
I never ordered any of the crap. I will say I definitely ordered. I ordered mail order comics from American Comics because they would have lists of back issues that were available. Right. And for some reason, I knew I was like, oh, I want that. There was a Once and Future Thor where like it was like a future sort of, and he had like a different outfit on and looked.
But tell
really
us about
cool.
the seahorses.
So no, the Olympic one that you're talking about was a sales program.
Right.
That they would send you a catalog and you would go to your friends and family, go door to door and sell items.
Oh,
and if you could sell enough of them, then you could get some like one of the prizes.
What a great racket.
They would show amazing prizes, but you would have to sell a lot. I did that at least once.
Oh, wow.
And I think I sold, I want to say 7 items to my grandmother. And
she just kept she
and I got
soft
like
touch.
I got some dumb, stupid thing back. I may have gone to a few doors, which if you know me, that was quite a feat. I really wanted whatever it was.
Right.
I definitely did that once. I didn't understand it until it came, and I was like, oh, this is crap. But I'm going to try to sell some because I want that thing. That was the Olympic.
Did you get anything?
I don't know. I think I sold 7, so I got some trinket. I don't know what it was, But,
in the 70s, you could buy an authentic Superman costume, which also includes a domino mask for some reason, for $7.
That's large money then.
Yeah. Let's see. A 7-foot tall, glow in the dark monster eyes, a monster with glow in the dark eyes, onion gum, something to throw your voice, X-ray specs. There was always X-ray specs. Got to see the boobs. That was all the ads. This ad is literally a guy looking at a voluptuous blonde.
Yep.
Secret spy scope. Again, this guy's looking at a girl in a bikini on the beach. The only thing I could have possibly have ordered, and this is a possibility, is those soldiers. Do you remember the soldiers in the 80s? They had you could buy Napoleonic era soldiers.
I don't.
And the ad in the back was like the guys in the squares. That's the only reason I know what Quid was talking about the old squares in the back of the like
a bunch of old super vague. Like there's like maybe the tiniest hint of a memory, but I'm not even sure if it's real.
That's the only possibility. Is those dudes? But I didn't really do any. I didn't have any money. I was a kid. My parents were not going to give me money to order a Polaris nuclear sub for $7.
I was then and am now a scrounger. If there's a thing that I want, I will find a way to get it. I was like that then. I would take on what can I do? And I'd do some, yard work or whatever.
Right.
I'd scrounge for change. That was my mom was a bartender and a waitress. And so there's always just little amounts of cash that got lost. And so I would just go into every couch cushion. You could do well for yourself back
in
then.
1979 for $2.50, you could get 204 Revolutionary War soldiers. I was big into toy soldiers back then. We had tons of them. So that's the only possibility that I could have possibly have done. But I don't think I ever ordered anything.
Yeah.
I think even back then I was like, none of this is real. All right.
You had Lower Manhattan and the street vendors to sort of be like,
exactly. Go to Canal Street and get some.
I recognize this. This is garbage.
There was
I was like, stuff.
I didn't need it because there was this awesome, and this is something that existed in the 80s, doesn't exist anymore. On Amsterdam, about 4 blocks from my house, there was this awesome, weirdo toy store.
Oh.
And it didn't sell any mainstream toys. You couldn't go there and buy G.I. Joes, but you could buy GO.BOTS. They didn't have Transformers, but they had imported
poor man's Transformers.
But they had imported from Japan GO.BOTS, like real Japanese
awesome.
GO.BOTS, or Robotech stuff from Japan. Or I have this still in my possession. It's actually right over here. This old, 4-inch James Bond. Not a figure because it couldn't move, but James Bond in the white jacket and a gun. I still have it. That's where I bought it at that store.
4-inch James Bond is an amazing band name.
All kinds of weird toys like that. So I didn't need the back of the book. I just went to this toy store and they had all kinds of weird shit there. And that was, I don't even know where he got it from. He just sort of scrounged for these offbeat or imported toys. And
can you name any GO.BOTS?
GO.BOTS? No, I can't.
Can you name any GO.BOTS?
I remember the song, the GO.BOTS.
Oh, I don't remember the song. The leader of the good guys was Leader 1. He was a jet.
Yeah, he was. He was a gray jet.
He was an F-14 because everything was F-14s back then. And
GO.BOTS, 1983, 1987.
And then the leader of the bad guys was Psykill, and he was a motorcycle, and he had the wheels of the motorcycle.
Yeah, you're right.
Would end up on his shoulders, and it was an awesome design.
They must have had to come up with these names on Deadline. The number
Psykill is a great name.
No, but the number 2 bad guy was Tank, and he was a tank.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, Leader 1 is not a great name.
There was Turbo, who was a supercar.
Okay, I remember that. I had
Dumper, who was a dump truck. Slicks was a Renault.
I couldn't afford Transformers, so I had GO.BOTS.
No, and they were cool. They were little. They were small. I had a ton of GO.BOTS.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there was a larger, there was a silver Porsche 911 who had a German accent, and he was a larger one.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have had that, but I know that became my favorite car, and it still is to this day.
The Porsche 911. Oh, everyone. Yeah, it was the Porsche 911 and the Ferrari.
The Lamborghini Countach.
The Ferrari Testarossa.
Yeah, whatever Magnum PI I had, that was the one.
He had the Ferrari. You can buy GO.BOTS
now. That wasn't a Ferrari Testarossa. It was something else.
No, he didn't have that. But the Ferrari Testarossa was the one that everyone liked when I was a kid. You can buy these toys on eBay now for $600 in box.
I should have kept them. But the fact is, I have a bunch of stuff that's worth money, and I don't have the patience to sell it.
It's a hard world out there to sell on eBay. I've done it.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Thank you.
We had one yard sale, and I'm not over it.
Aaron, Bob, Cory, and Ken for writing in. Contact@iFanboy.com is how they did it. You can also write into our Media Explode show, put Media Explode in the subject line. We're probably going to do a summer mailbag soon, if not the next show, probably the show after. So we usually do a summer mailbag and an end of year mailbag. So if you have any non-comics media questions, write them in there. Plugs. Hey, that aforementioned Media Explode show is happening this coming week. We'll be doing Old Man and Old Movies, talking about Peggy Sue Got Married, the Francis Ford Coppola classic that neither Josh or I have seen.
Yeah, I didn't know you haven't seen it either. I thought there was just
I
me.
don't think I have, but it's possible. So that's coming up this coming week, although we haven't recorded it yet, but that's what I'm told. The week after, we'll have our book explode, and yes, we decided on a book. We're doing the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1, the first volume of the Alan Moore series, and I'm excited. I'm excited for that. We should just do all of the Alan Moore ABC comics for the rest of the year.
I mean, they would be worth it. For the record, Magnum PI drove a Ferrari 308 GTS.
Yeah, he was before Testarossa. Testarossa was later in the 80s.
I don't know what kind of money he was pulling in. Was there a
that
story
was
how he got
car.
the
That
car?
was Robin Masters' car.
Okay.
The rich author whose property he lived on, and he was hired to be like his security. That was his car. Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. It's good work if you can get it. Was he in Hawaii?
Yeah, Hawaii, totally.
Okay, there we go.
So what happened? If you really want to know,
I'm not trying to move
also,
on.
Kevin O'Neill was the artist on League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I just want to mention that. So when they finished shooting Hawaii 5-0, they had this whole production, facility and crew in Hawaii, and they're like, "Shit, we need another show in Hawaii." And so they did Hawaii. That's how they came up with the Magnum PI, because they had the people there and they had the stages. It takes place in the same world. And anything. That's why that show exists. Anyway, Booksplode, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1, Alan Moore, Kevin O'Neill. That's coming at you June 27th. And then if you're a patron, 2 days later, June 29th is the patron hangout for June. And look forward to all those things. And you can find our library of exactly 1,380 shows over at iFanboy.com or over Podcasts Are Sold. That's how many shows are in the feed. They're all available to you. Shows of all shapes and sizes, going back 20 years, almost. And you can find them all
the shows
there.
are largely the same shape.
I mean, yeah.
Like literally, like it was the same aspect ratio, but I guess compositionally they've
gotten bigger in the waist.
That's true.
You can follow us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram. You can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. And sometimes when I'm not super busy on the weekends, you can find the best of the week in panels. And individually, we are CS Kilpatrick on Instagram and J.A. Flanagan on Instagram. And so far, that's all we are on Instagram.
One thing I can tell you is that all of the shows that we ever shot were in the revered format of 16:9 aspect ratio. Yeah, we always did 16:9.
Even the early shows?
Yes, because my video camera.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right.
I made sure it was 16:9. Yeah, that was like because this was the age of DVDs, and at that point you could get them in full screen or widescreen. Right. We were snobs, and I just thought, well, we're shooting that in this aspect ratio.
That's correct. Didn't know. That's how it should be.
Exactly. So you go over to the youtube.com/iFanboy, and you will find every one of those old video shows and minis. We post a cobbled together version of this show that is also available there should you want to listen to it in that way. You can. It's never suggested the show to me now that I think about it.
Well,
the algorithm, maybe it's that smart. Like he's not going to listen.
Well, how much other comic book content are you watching on YouTube?
None.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
It just doesn't know.
Please consider.
It doesn't know that you're the guy on the couch. That's why.
It should know that. That seems like eventually it'll know
Google
that.
It'll know
it's me.
Google knows everything.
Please consider writing a review, leaving a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, like, subscribe, whatever it is that you do that you can do if it's there. It's awesome if you do that. Thank you. That's it. That was my end of my part. I ended it badly.
You yawned right at the perfect moment.
I thought maybe I got away with that.
So this was a stressful prep for this show.
Yes.
Pre-production was not fun. But you know what? I enjoyed doing it.
It was a good time.
I hope you enjoyed listening to it because I enjoyed having this conversation. I know Josh did as well.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully next week is better. Until then, I'm Connor.
The Ferrari Testarossa, or Type F110, is a 12-cylinder mid-engine sports car. The 308 we talked about earlier was an 8-cylinder mid-engine.
I had a Ferrari Testarossa model on my desk. It's fucking awesome. The doors opened.
I don't ever think of you as a car guy.
I'm not, but we all, in the 80s, we wanted to fly an F-14. We wanted to drive a Ferrari Testarossa.
Yeah, you're.
That's all there was to it. I like cars, but not like you. But that's okay.